Hello everyone, this is Dr. Samuel Nchubosiako again. We are starting our series on Africa's healthy choices. This segment, which is known as Making the Case. I want to be able to show you from a medical perspective why weight loss is such a problem, the effect it has on our health, and they are diverse. And again, not just weight loss, but also the kind of stuff we are eating, the kind of foods we are eating as Africans, the effect it has on our health. Now, the minute you bring this up, my fellow African brothers especially, and including some of our sisters, get very defensive. Why are you talking about weight? I am the way I am, I like the way I am, I don't have any problem. So don't talk to me about weight. Don't tell me about the food I eat. I enjoy my wache, I enjoy my jollof rice and my banku. So why are you making that a big deal? And they also believe that their size is not a doing of theirs. They believe that how much they weigh has nothing to, they don't have any control over that. And they also believe that they will live as long as they want to live, and then eventually they are going to die at the right time. And we don't think that the decisions we are making now has an effect on our health, the kind of diseases we get or the ones we don't get, and then ultimately how much time we spend on earth. That is our life expectancy. To address that, at least from a Christian perspective, the Bible says the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise or wealth to the brilliant. But it goes on to say, but time and chance happens to them all. What this implies is nobody is set. There is nothing that is set on stone when it comes to our outcome or how long we live or what kind of disease we get. The battle is not to the strong. That means health does not automatically come to someone, or good health or long life does not automatically happen to anyone. But it goes on to say that time and chance, meaning the kinds of decisions we make within a set time, is what influences our health and ultimately how much time we live here on earth. Now, if we are really interested in the will of God concerning our lives, it is actually found in 1 John 1 and 2, where it says, Beloved, I wish above all things that thou may be in good health, and prosper even as your soul prospers. So, as much as we believe that it is the will of that, however we live here is automatic, that God has given us a certain amount of years to live, and that God knows a certain kind of disease we are going to get, and that we don't have any control over what kind of disease we get and how long we'll live. That is not true, and I'll show that to you very soon. The will of God actually for us is found in 1 John 1 and 2, where the Bible says, I wish above all things that thou may be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So for my Christian brothers or my religious brothers and sisters, as much as we are interested in our soul living long, in our soul going into eternity, the Bible also implores us that we should make sure that we are in good health. And that decision to be in good health comes to you. You as the individual, you have a choice on what you put in your mouth, how much exercise you do, which ultimately influences the kinds of diseases you get, and then ultimately influences how long you live. I believe, and I'm not accusing anyone for thinking the wrong way, because once upon a time, I believe that I don't have any control over what I eat. I don't have any control over how long I live here or the kind of disease I get, until I saw this statistic. Now, look at these are life expectancies in the world, and this is very important. So we are making the case. We are making a big case here, and this is the big picture. Life expectancy, the first country, the country where they live the most is Japan. The average person lives about 85 years. Then Germany, which is the European, if you go into Europe, they have an okay life expectancy, 81 years. United Kingdom, 81 years. And then you come down to United States of America, which is about 79.8 years. I'll come back to that. But then look at our beloved Ghana, 66 years. And then my Niger brothers and sisters, 53 years. Sierra Leone has the lowest life expectancy on earth, and that is 47.5 years. If you look at the life expectancy, this is according to the World Health Organization. If you look at the entire life expectancy, African countries have the lowest, we are at the lowest part, with Sierra Leone being the lowest, the country that people live the shortest. Now, let's go back into the major countries. We take a place like United States of America. We spend more money per person, per capita, on health more than all the other countries, but we are not living long. Then you take a place, we take a place like Costa Rica, which is not as rich, doesn't have all these major technical medical advances, and they are living longer. If you look at the real fine numbers, Costa Rica lives longer than the United States. And even in the United States, we know very well that we keep people on life support for so long. We have people in nursing home who are pretty much lifeless, and we are Medicaid is paying a bunch of money out for them. So the life expectancy in America, if we are talking about quality life, is actually very low. So the point here is, if you want to ignore the African countries as they are dying of infectious diseases, they are dying of things that are not really chronic, and you want to focus on the United States, why is United States number 34 when it comes to life expectancy, even though we are spending so much money per person? And I'll tell you the answer. The answer is that between Japan, which is the highest life expectancy, and America, which has the lowest life expectancy in the industrialized world, obesity rate in America is 34%. The overall nation is 34%. Obesity in Japan is 3%. And then if you come into people of African origin, especially women of African origin, the rate of obesity and overweight in women of African origin is 80%. Again, obesity and overweight combined is 80%, meaning 4 out of every 5 women of African origin are either overweight or obese. And that number is alarming. And that number, wherever obesity goes, disease goes. And again, you look at the way the Japanese eat. They eat 25% less calories. Americans, or people where there is enough food, so the Western world, we are eating way too much calories. And I'm about to show you that also. And again, something very important. Their food comprises more of fruits and vegetables. What are we eating? We are eating a bunch of rice, a bunch of kenkey, a bunch of gari, a bunch of yams, without any salad or any fruits to it. And my brothers and sisters, this is, I say, is the number one reason why we are having so many diseases, and again, the number one reason why we are dying so early. And I'm going to demonstrate all of that very soon. The underlying problem in all of this, the underlying problem is our weight, our diet, and our lack of physical activity. Our weight, diet, and lack of physical activity. And that is what is bringing all the diseases that is coming our way and the early death. So Africa's healthy choices, we are going with these pillars. We are bringing them down into pillars. The first pillar is weight loss. The second pillar is healthy eating. The third pillar is increased physical activity. The fourth pillar is improved healthcare follow-up. That means how to deal with your doctor, and we are going to go into all of that. Now let's take a closer look. Let's take a closer look at this. I'm about to focus on the effect our weight has on diseases, and also how long we live. The effect of weight on diseases and how long we live. I want to zoom in so we are taking a closer look. What you have on the screen now is the 10 causes of death in America. This is for everybody in America. Heart disease, cancers, lower respiratory conditions, stroke, accidents. But the one that I'm interested in is the leading causes of death among people of African origin. And let's take a look. Number 1 is heart disease. Heart disease kills so many people, it's unbelievable. Number 2 are cancers. Cancers are also catching up. In about 5 years, it is believed that cancer will overtake heart disease as the number 1 killer. And then stroke as number 3, diabetes, and accident. If you look at the top 5, the first 4 of the top 5 are all based on, or are all as a result of the food we are eating and also the weight that we are piling up. Now let's take an even more closer look. Let's zoom in into heart disease. Heart disease killed 800,000 people in America last year. That is 30% of all the deaths in America. According to the CDC, and this is all from the CDC website, free material on the CDC website, 80% of that 800,000 could have been prevented. 80% of that 800,000 could have been prevented by doing simple things as addressing obesity, poor physical activity, drinking, unhealthy eating. Again, obesity and unhealthy eating are two different things, and we'll be talking about those very soon. Now, so what that tells me as a physician is that for every 10 people who walk into the emergency room with a heart attack who end up dying, what this number is telling me, of that 10, 8 of them, if we had been aggressive with the simplest things, that 8 could have been kept outside of the door. For every 10 heart-related death, 8 of them could have been prevented. That is mind-blowing. And again, the CDC also says by doing the same things, addressing obesity, increasing physical activity, addressing healthy eating, we save 80% of the heart-related death. We could have saved 50% of strokes just by doing the same thing. And then you'll find out very soon, we could have saved another huge percentage, about 80% of cancers. Now, let's take a closer look at heart disease. The major cause of heart disease, this is from the InterHeart study. InterHeart is probably one of the most respected studies in medical literature. This includes about 30,000 people across 50 nations over an extended period of time, and they were able to just tell us the risk factors or the causes of heart disease or coronary artery disease. And this is how they broke it down. Cholesterol being the highest contributor of heart disease, 49%. After cholesterol, you are thinking, oh, smoking might be coming in, and yes, smoking comes in. So smoking is a big risk factor. And then stress. We don't talk a lot about stress here. Maybe in the future I'll spend a lot of time on it. But then look at other things. Abdominal obesity, 20%. Just having a big abdomen, 20% it puts you at risk, 20% for heart disease. And then you take a look at physical activity or exercise, 12.2. And then eating fruits and vegetables, 13.7. Meaning, if for people who do not smoke, most of our people, our Africans, do not smoke, that cuts down our risk for heart disease by 35.7%. Now you think that is good, but then why are we getting heart disease? And why are we one of the highest people getting heart disease? Cholesterol, 49.2%. That is huge. Stress, again, 32.5%. That is huge. And then hypertension, abdominal obesity. If you combine all of those, you're talking about a huge contributor to heart disease. Now, if we are able to address all these risk factors, according to the InterHeart study, we can cut down our risk for heart disease by a good 90%. Keep in mind, heart disease is the #1 killer in America. So if you can cut your risk of heart disease by a good 90%, you have a good chance of living very long without ever contracting any heart disease. Now, let's talk about cancers. Obesity or our lifestyle and cancers. Cancer is a big problem among us as people of African origin. And I want to take you through a few of them. This slide here shows the rate of prostate cancers. And I know it's a lot of lines, but I want us to take our time and go through it. The red line, anytime you see red, that's for people of African origin. And the yellow is for Caucasians. Now, if you look at this is the rate of prostate cancers. The lower the line, it tells us that fewer people are getting prostate cancer, and the fewer people is in 100,000, which is on the far left. So out of 100,000, in 1999, you had just about over 160 people getting prostate cancer if they were Caucasian. If they were people of African origin, in 1999, you had about 250. So back then, for every 160, an additional 90 people will be getting prostate cancer. Even if you fast forward, the number, it doesn't even get better. You fast forward to 2011, 2011, the rate of prostate cancer has come down. But look at, for every 100 out of 100,000, we are talking about 130 people getting prostate cancer if they are Caucasian. But then you go up to the red line, which is for people of African origin, and about close to 200 people are getting prostate cancer if they are people of African origin. That is huge. That is huge. But the story gets even more sad when you look at the death associated with prostate cancer. Prostate cancer kills black people of African origin way out disproportionately more than Caucasians or any other race. Again, look at the distance between the death rate for all the races and then the death rate for prostate cancer for people of African origin. This is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. So out of every 100,000, you get about 25 people dying if they are Caucasians. For that same number, you are getting close to 50 people dying if they are black or people of African origin. That is startling. Why? The reason being that we are getting more advanced prostate cancer. And then you will soon find out that prostate cancer has more to do with the kind of food you eat more than anything else. And your weight more than anything else. Now the story is even going to get even more sad. Let's look at breast cancer. Again, the yellow line is for Caucasians. The red line is for people of African origin. The other line, say the blue line, is for Asian Americans. And then the purple line is for Hispanics. But I want to focus just on the red line, which is the people of African origin, and then the yellow line, which is for Caucasians. Now, back in 1999, breast cancer was actually a disease for Caucasian women. And you can see it from this graph. In 1999, about out of 100,000, 140 women will be getting prostate cancer. For that same year, close to about 115 women will be getting breast cancer. Now, that was 1999. African American or women of African origin are not getting as much prostate cancer. But you fast forward into 2011, and then all of a sudden, breast cancer is a disease of Caucasian women and women of African origin at the same rate. And you're asking yourself, what has changed? Has our genetics changed? No. It is our weight and our bad eating habits and the lack of physical activity that has changed. But then this is the rate of breast cancers. The story gets even more sad when you look at the death of breast cancer, death coming in from breast cancer. Take a look again. In 1999, and this is take a look at it, since 1999 up until now, the death rate for breast cancer among women of African origin and Caucasian has always been extremely high. A disease that affects women of African origin and Caucasians at the same rate kills almost twice as many people of African origin compared to Caucasians. And that is very sad. And you ask yourself, why are African women or women of African origin dying so much from breast cancer? Again, we are getting very advanced stage disease. We are getting the diseases at the stage 3, stage 4. They come in and it's already metastasized. You cannot do anything about it. So by the time they show up to the hospital or they show up to the clinic, to the time they actually die, there's a very short time. And again, breast cancers has to do with our weight and our eating pattern as well as the lack of physical activity. Now, cancer poses a great misconception among people of African origin. If you ask the average African person, they are thinking cancer is probably genetic. It's in my blood, I cannot do anything about it. It's mainly genetic. Another person says cancer is in my family, I can't do anything about it. The other person says cancer is probably a curse from God or a way of God punishing sinners, or way God is punishing you for a certain sin you've committed. I know this because I've heard it so many times. Another group of people will say cancer is a disease that is brought upon us by the witches and wizards in Africa. But nothing I have said here, nothing listed here is accurate. Everything is wrong. Cancer is not mainly genetic. Cancer is not mainly in the family. Cancer is not a curse or punishment from God. Cancer is not a spell cast on us by witches or wizards. They don't have any idea of the physiology or the metabolic mechanism involved in developing cancers. So they cannot bring cancers. Cancer is all a disease of lifestyle, and I'm about to show it to you. Again, let's take a look at this graph. We have three graphs here, A, B, and C. The A tells us causes of cancers in America, and this is from the National Library of Medicine, and which is an affiliate of the National Institute of Health from the year 2008. And the first chart, or the first circle, we call it A, B, and C. This is cancers of all causes of cancers in America in that year. And they are saying, and this chart is so important, this slide here is very important. They are saying that for all the types of cancers that we experience, it is only 5 to 10% of them that are genetic. That means they are genetic, it's in your genes, you cannot do anything about it. Just 5 to 10%. A good 90 to 95% of it is environmental. If it is environmental, that means you can prevent it. And this information here defies everything people know about cancers, because everybody thinks cancer is this mysterious disease that you get and there's no way out. No. Cancer is just a minutely genetic. But then for the majority, the huge majority of cancers is based on lifestyle or environmental changes, which you can change. That's the good news. Now, look at the second part, the second chart, which is the B. This tells you the genetic component. So the part that is genetic, it actually tells you how much of it relates to specific cancers. And because of time and also importance, I'm going to talk about just 3 types of cancers, which happens to be the most common cancers. Now, breast cancer happens to be the number 1 cancer in women, the number 2 killer cancer in women. Breast cancer, my brothers and sisters, is only 1.8% genetic, or just about 2% genetic. In other words, 98% of the time, breast cancer can be prevented if you do certain things, which I'm about to show you. Let's look at prostate cancer. Prostate cancer, again, is the number 1 cancer in men, the number 2 cancer killer in men. Prostate cancer, when it comes to genes, it is just 2.2%. Again, meaning about 97.8% of the time, prostate cancer is preventable. That is good news. Prostate cancer is not mystery. If you do certain things right, you should not get prostate cancer, and the hard data is there to support it. Let's look at colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is the number 3 cancer in men and women at the same time, and also the number 3 cancer killer in men and women at the same time. Colorectal cancer affects it's only 2.5% genetic. That means, again, 97.5% of the time, 97.5% of the time, colorectal cancer or colon cancer is preventable. That is humongous. That is great news. Now, what are we preventing? What are the environmental causes? What are the things that we can do? And that is where the C chart shows. The C chart is telling us, and the minute you talk about cancer, everybody's thinking smoking. No, smoking is the number 1 cause of cancer in America. No, it's not. According to this chart, diet is the number 1 cause of cancers in America. Diet. Diet contributes 30 to 35% of all cancers. Smoking comes in at number 2 for 25 to 30%. And then look at obesity. Just being overweight puts you at about 20% risk for cancers. And again, things like alcohol, 4 to 6%. Infections, about 15 to 20%. Now, for a race or a group of people, not a race, but a group of people of African origin, who do not predominantly smoke, we should be able to cut down our risk for prostate, for all types of cancers, by a good 25% to 30%. 25% to 30%. So why are we getting all these cancers that I already showed you? And why is it killing us so much? It's because diet, the kind of stuff we are putting in our mouth, are all poisonous. And it is bringing us all these cancers. Not only diet, but then look at obesity. Because we are eating so much, and our diet does not consist of fruits and vegetables, too much carbs, too much oils, and too much poisons, which I will show you, because of that, if you add that to our weight, you put yourself about 50 to 60% risk of coming up with cancers. And I'm telling you right now, or I just want to make it clear to you right now, that the types of food you eat brings up all these high-risk cancers. Because we are consuming so much poisons which augment our cells or changes our cells so radically, you get a cancer that cannot be cured. I had a woman recently in the hospital, an African American, very nice person, coming in with breast cancer. Breast cancer, when it is estrogen receptor positive, that is a good type of breast cancer. That means when you have too much estrogen, it's going to feed the cancer and it makes the cancer worse. So you block the estrogen receptor, or you block the surface of the receptor, and then all of a sudden you can pretty much cure that cancer or manage it very well. This woman had this type of cancer, yet you block the surface of the cells and you cannot cure it. You cannot treat it. The cancer kept spreading and spreading and spreading with so many complications. And again, it goes on to tell you that we as women of African origin, or men and women of African origin, we are getting really weird diseases, and it all comes down to our diet, lack of physical activity, and the weight that we keep piling up. Weight does not only affect cancers and heart disease, it affects multiple conditions, and I'm going to go through a few of them. Ischemic heart disease, which we talked about, cancers, colon cancer, esophageal cancer, postmenopausal breast cancer. Again, just as I said, a lot of breast cancers are estrogen receptor positive. When you have gained weight, as a woman, when you gain so much weight, you have a lot of fat cells. Well, after menopause, your estrogen is not coming from your ovaries. They are coming in from the fat cells. The fat cells produce estrogen, so much of them, because we have so much fat cells, and it's feeding these cancers, feeding them so much they grow out of control. And a good 80% of all breast cancers are estrogen responsive, which tells us that weight and increase in adipose tissue or fat cells is what is bringing on these cancers or increasing them. And then stroke, we already talked about stroke, diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol. These things are called metabolic syndrome. I'll go into details when later on in my presentation. All these things are as a result of weight and, again, the kind of stuff we are eating. You eat so much sugar, or you eat so much carbohydrates, all of a sudden you increase your insulin. Insulin becomes resistant. The body does not recognize insulin again. You become resistant, so we call it insulin resistance. The insulin leads to diabetes. It leads to hypertension. It has been several clinical studies that has proven that insulin causes your blood vessels to tighten. And when it tightens, that means the heart has to pump harder to get the blood through it, and that is hypertension. Again, insulin causes high cholesterol. Insulin comes in with its little brother or little sister called insulin-like growth hormone, or growth factor. Between insulin and that little brother, they bring in so much diseases, including high cholesterol. Osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis is a major problem in America, leading to so many hip replacement, knee replacement. Now, the major contributor for osteoarthritis, again, is obesity, GERD, or heartburn. Several people, you just need to go to church or go to any group meeting, somebody walks in, I have heartburn, what am I supposed to do? And the simple solution is lose weight. There is a deacon in my church right now. I did this presentation at church. He lost about 20 pounds. All of a sudden, his heartburn is cured. And he cannot believe it. He didn't know, he wasn't even expecting it. He lost the weight because I told him his BMI was too much, lost 20 pounds, and all of a sudden found out that his heartburn, for which he was taking so many medications, Nexium, Zantac, all of them, the heartburn is cured. Sleep apnea. People are sleeping and snoring so much, and it's not because of anything, it's because we've gained so much weight around our laryngeal cords, and it's interfering with airflow down into our windpipe. And that obstruction leads to so many things. So the sleep apnea, all of a sudden we find out, it's related to atrial fibrillation. We find out, it's related to strokes. That if you have sleep apnea, it puts you at a risk of stroke. And what is causing sleep apnea? Again, it's our weight. restrictive lung disease, obesity hyperventilation syndrome, which is also a condition where you have so much weight around your lungs, you're not able to open up your airway and breathe in and out effectively. And they come into the hospital with high carbon dioxide in their blood, leading to so many neurological problems. Again, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is almost known as a disease of alcohol and hepatitis. But then guess what? All of a sudden, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or a type of liver disease that is brought on by obesity and our lifestyle, that disease is gradually or actively catching up as the number one reason why you are going to get a liver transplant. Major problem. You get someone who has never drunk, doesn't have hepatitis A, doesn't have hepatitis B, all of a sudden they have end-stage liver disease. Why? Because they are obese and that amount of fat cells is invading the liver and bringing upon all these liver failure. Gallstones, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is very common among people of African origin. It's a major contributor to infertility, and it is brought on by weight and poor dietary choices. And then infertility. I'll spend more time to talk about infertility. Infertility is weight, your obesity contributes just about 6% of infertility. That is not a big deal. Okay. But then the problem in men, when you have gained weight, your testosterone level comes down. When your testosterone level comes down, it brings on so many problems. The man becomes sluggish. They begin to gain weight around the abdomen a lot. Low testosterone leads to visceral abdominal fat. Not only that, it also makes the men very sluggish. So they come in complaining, "Doc, I am a little sluggish. My memory is not as sharp. I am becoming more depressed. I'm not in my good mood." And as you check their testosterone and it's very low. Why is it low? It's because of their weight. There's a mechanism involved which I don't want to go into right now. And when you have low testosterone, it contributes to erectile dysfunction. Again, the other contributor to erectile dysfunction is diabetes. Diabetes is brought upon by our weight and poor dietary choices. So this becomes like a double whammy. The man gains weight, they get diabetes, which ultimately leads to erectile dysfunction. They have low testosterone, which brings down a lot, decreases ejaculation, decreases even the sensitivity or the interest in having sex, and then all of a sudden they are not having sex, or they have very bad erectile dysfunction. It's what we call severe erectile dysfunction, which affects the marriage. It brings in so many problems on the marriage. And the solution is not to get testosterone, because testosterone, as you are hearing in the news now, is bringing upon so many problems, including blood clots in the legs and blood clots in the lungs. So you cannot just say, "I'll take testosterone and call it a day." That doesn't fix it. The solution is to lose weight. Again, in women, believe it or not, testosterone is what brings a woman her sexual feeling or the libido. When a woman gains weight, their testosterone, both the total and the free testosterone, comes down. When the testosterone comes down, you don't have the interest to have sex. So they lose interest. They lose complete interest in having sex. So the couple will come into the hospital, or the woman will come in by herself. "Doctor, my husband is complaining that I'm not interested, and I'm really not interested." And you will check their testosterone, and it's most likely low. The major contributor for women when it comes to libido is not estrogen, it's actually testosterone. Women have a low dose amount of testosterone just for that purpose. And even in Australia and some other countries, they give testosterone to boost that part of their lives. But in America, it's not FDA approved. But then the solution to it is not giving women testosterone. When a woman loses weight, all of a sudden their testosterone goes up. So in women who have undergone bariatric surgery, all of a sudden their testosterone level goes up, and they get an interest in having sexual encounters with their husband. All of a sudden the house becomes lively again. And the simple solution to that was they lost weight, their testosterone came up, their sexual life improved, the marriage improved, there was peace in the house. My brothers and sisters, again, we have reached a point where weight, I have described so many conditions that are brought on by just our weight and the fact that we are not eating the right types of food. So up until this point, I have told you, or I have explained to you, how weight affects so many diseases. Now I want to show you how weight affects our life expectancy. And I know this graph is very busy, but all I want to show you is that as you are moving, as your weight is increasing, your life expectancy is coming down. So don't think that, oh, I am just 20 pounds overweight, I guess that's fine. No, being 20 pounds overweight automatically tells me that you will live shorter compared to someone of the same age, the same gender, who is 20 pounds not overweight. And this chart actually proves, because of time, I'm not going to go through it. This here is talking about mortality. How many people are dying per 100,000? According to the National Vital Statistics System, this is a place where, this is also the national institution which has very reliable data. So mortality. And again, the minute you see these things, as a physician who is of African origin, I get really disturbed. The blue, I'm just going to orient you, the blue graphs tells you the number of people who died in the year 2000. The green one tells you the number of people who died in the year 2011. Now, the minute you see that, you know that black people are going to have the highest, and of course they do have the highest. But then Hispanic females have the lowest amount of death in America in any of the years if you go with it. But then let's compare it to Caucasians. So this first chart here, this first part here is for black female, and this part here is for white female. And again, if you look at it, the death rate for black women is more compared to the white women. But women generally live longer than men. So the average woman will live longer, about 5 years longer than the average woman in everywhere you go. But then look at black men, or men of African origin. I mean, this is so disturbing. In 2011, in the year 2000, look how high the chart is, 1,422 for every 100,000. By the year 2011, the number has just come down little, just minutely. If you compare it to any other race, black men die more than any other race on earth, any other group of people on earth. And it's not whether you are in Africa, in America, London, everywhere you look. The minute the person is of African origin, they have a higher death rate. They have a shorter life expectancy, which is the same as a higher death rate. So it brings me to the question: if we have all these problems, if we have we are at high risk for all these conditions, for all these cancers and early death, you would think that we are going to be more cautious of how we live or how we do things, but we are not. We are the most carefree. We want to eat anything we want to eat. We want to stay at home as much as we want, be in the couch and not do any physical activity. But the problem is not mysterious. God does not hate black people, and God does not give us diseases on purpose. The problem is basic: obesity, 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 and poor dietary choices. And lack of physical activity. We cannot overemphasize these things. I say unhealthy weight and poor diet has brought us diseases, which has brought us death as people of African origin. The only solution is to appreciate that our weight should not be sustained if it's going too much. We need to adjust the kind of foods we are eating. And as a people of a certain background, we need to adjust the food we are eating, especially as Africans, Ghanaians, Nigerians, wherever you are. We need to adjust the foods we are eating, bring down weight, and then ultimately cut down these diseases and cut down early death.